Portugal might actually win the 2026 World Cup, and I don't mean that as a hot take. But here's the thing. There's also a very real reason they might crash out before the semifinals. Again, by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly where Portugal stands heading into 2026, why they're dangerous, and the one problem that could ruin everything. Let's go. First, let's talk about the elephant in the room, Cristiano Ronaldo. If you know one thing about football, you probably know this guy. Five-time World Player of the Year, what we call the Ballon d'Or, one of the most famous athletes on the planet, and he's going to be 41 years old at the 2026 World Cup. That's not a typo. Most players retire around 33 or 34. Playing at a World Cup at 41 would be almost unheard of. But Ronaldo is still scoring goals. He moved to Saudi Arabia to play for a club called Al Nassr, and people wrote him off completely, said he was done. Finished. He responded by scoring over 50 goals in a single season. So the question isn't whether Ronaldo can still play. The question is, can Portugal actually win a World Cup with a 41-year-old as their star? Here's what makes this complicated. Portugal has an insane amount of talent right now, not just Ronaldo. We're talking about a generation of players that other countries would genuinely trade their entire squad for. There's Bruno Fernandes. Think of him as the engine of the team, the guy who makes everything move, creates chances, scores goals, and runs the entire midfield. He plays for Manchester United and is one of the top 10 most dangerous attacking midfielders in the world right now. Then there's Rafael Leão, fast, like terrifyingly fast. He plays for AC Milan and defenders genuinely struggle to stop him. When he's on form, he's unplayable. And Bernardo Silva, one of the most technically gifted players in the world, plays for Manchester City, which just happens to be one of the best club teams on the planet. He won the Champions League. He's been in multiple title-winning squads. The guy knows what winning looks like. So on paper, Portugal is stacked. But here's the uncomfortable truth about Portugal that nobody talks about enough. They've never won a World Cup, not once, in their entire history. Their best finish ever was third place back in 1966, over 50 years ago. Since then, quarterfinals at best, and some genuinely embarrassing early exits in between. Compare that to Brazil, who have won it 5 times, or Germany 4 times, or France, who won it as recently as 2018. Portugal keeps showing up with incredible talent and keeps going home without the trophy. Why? This is where it gets really interesting. The issue isn't the players, it's the system. Football, for beginners, is basically a team sport where organization matters as much as individual talent. You can have the 5 best players in the world, but if they're not playing as a connected unit, a well-organized average team will beat them. Portugal has historically struggled with this. They've had moments where the team looked overly dependent on one player, yes, Ronaldo, to do everything. And when that one player had an off day, the whole team fell apart. But something has shifted. Their current coach, Roberto Martinez, has been quietly building something different. He started integrating the younger players more. He's created a system where Bruno Fernandes controls the tempo, Leão provides the chaos on the wings, and Bernardo Silva links everything together in the middle. Ronaldo is still there, still important, but he's no longer the only option, and that might actually be the most dangerous version of Portugal we've ever seen. Here's a stat that should get your attention. At Euro 2024, that's the European Championship, basically the World Cup, but just for Europe, Portugal made it to the quarterfinals. They were one of the favorites, and they got knocked out by France on penalties. Penalties, by the way, are basically a shootout at the end of a tied game where players take turns kicking the ball one-on-one against the goalkeeper. It's like a coin flip, extremely cruel, extremely unpredictable. So they didn't lose because they were outplayed. They lost because of bad luck at the worst possible moment. That tells you 2 things. 1, they're good enough to compete with the best teams in the world. 2, they still haven't figured out how to close out the big moments. Now here's the final question. Can they fix that in 2026? The 2026 World Cup is being hosted across the United States, Canada, and Mexico. It's going to be the biggest World Cup in history, 48 teams instead of the usual 32. More games, more upsets, more chaos. For a team like Portugal, that actually helps. More matches means more time to build momentum, more chances to hit form at the right moment. And unlike previous tournaments, Portugal is entering 2026 with real depth, young players coming through, a coaching staff that's finally thinking beyond Ronaldo. So here's where I land on this. Portugal is absolutely good enough to win the 2026 World Cup. The talent is there, the system is improving, the squad depth is real, but they've said that before, multiple times, and they've still never lifted that trophy. The difference in 2026 might come down to one thing, whether they've finally learned that moments of individual brilliance aren't enough, whether they play as a team when it matters most, whether they hold their nerve when the whole tournament is on the line. If they do, Portugal could genuinely go all the way. If they don't, we'll be having this exact same conversation in 2030. That's the honest answer. And honestly, that tension is exactly exactly what makes watching Portugal so fascinating. If you want to keep learning football this way, simple, fast, no fluff, hit subscribe. New videos soon.